The Milwaukee Bucks thoroughly beat the Oklahoma City Thunder to become NBA Cup champions in the second year of the NBA's in-season tournament experiment. There are a lot of takeaways from this. Milwaukee has been red hot as of late. Thunder are, of course, a great up-and-coming team with a super high ceiling and potential for not just the future, but now. And on the NBA Cup itself. So let's begin by talking about our winners here, the Milwaukee Bucks. This is a team that started off the year pretty badly. And obviously last season they had faced a lot of disappointment. They bring in Damian Lillard in the offseason. And they expected him to be the piece that was going to put this team back in championship contention. They moved off of Drew Holiday, their championship-winning point guard, to add in Damian Lillard, with the idea of course, the defense is going to take a step down, but Lillard has the ability to take our offense to the next level. And there was a time when they had Adrian Griffin coaching the team where they were 30-13, and their offense looked pretty good. Perhaps not what you would expect out of a Damian Giannis duo, but still a very, very good offense. But the issue became that defense, and they go out and they decide that in order to fix this problem, they were going to fire Adrian Griffin, despite the well above 500 record. They had double the amount of wins that they had losses, 30-13. But they go out and they fire Adrian Griffin, and they're bringing Doc Rivers, who, of course, has had his coaching issues in the past. But if there's one thing, you can kind of trust him to be a good defensive coach. So they bring in Doc Rivers, and the team, after starting 30-13, does not finish with 50 wins. They go on to go 49-33, finishing the season under Doc Rivers. So that's just a 19-20 record under him. And in general, it was a very disappointing season for Milwaukee. And Damian Lillard looked like he had regressed significantly. Because the year prior in Portland, he was one of the best scorers in the entire league. And that is what he is as an offensive-minded guard. An elite scorer, an elite shooter from any spot on the court. Beyond the arc, at least. But it looked like that was not just not enough, but that Lillard's ability had declined. And they go into this season really just planning on running it back, giving this team another year to sit and develop and gain chemistry with one another, kind of like the T-Wolves did when they first got Rudy Gobert. That first season didn't go very well, but a second year they improved a lot, and the Bucks, that was their plan going into the season. And to start things off, it did not look good for that matter. But as of late, the Milwaukee Bucks have looked really, really good. They are 5th in the Eastern Conference right now at 14-11. It's nothing awe-inspiring, but they are 8-2 in their last 10 games. So despite a really slow start, they have absolutely turned things around, and that's great for Milwaukee. Damian Lillard, while his production is still not, to the Portland days, he looks a lot more comfortable in this offense than he did last year. And part of that also has to do with having another offseason with the team under Doc Rivers, which you never got the first time around when they hired him mid-season. But Dame looks more comfortable. Gary Trent Jr., who I thought was going to be a real good pickup for them, hasn't been great, but you can get by with that because you're not paying him a lot of money. And he's shooting well, though, 38.8% from the three-point line. So the bare minimum, we have a good shooter there. And he can be kind of an inconsistent player, especially on the defensive end of the court. But when Gary Trent is on, he can be a solid contributing piece that they went and picked up in the offseason. And for Giannis, he yet again looks like one of the best players in the entire world. He had 29 points and 16 rebounds in that finals game of the NBA Cup against the Thunder. And Giannis, once again, is not really a front runner for the MVP, despite what he's doing on both ends of the court, because he's not just producing well on offense, but he's impacting the game defensively as well. He just kind of fallen victim to voter fatigue, even though he hasn't won quite recently. But he had a repeat MVP seasons back-to-back, and then he won DPOY in that second MVP season. And as a result, people just kind of got tired of voting for him because, he's not doing anything that we haven't necessarily seen before, and that's usually what really gets people's vote, whether that's fair or not. But Giannis, whether he's going to be an MVP frontrunner or not, that doesn't matter at the end of the day. Individual awards, they're secondary in a team sport, and I think Giannis feels that way as well. But he's absolutely one of the best players in the entire league and does deserve more discussions in MVP conversations. I think both him and the probably main MVP candidate, Nikola Jokic, are going to have really interesting all-time discussions by the end of their careers. Because there's this idea of recency bias where, we favor the guys that are new, that are fresh and exciting. But when it comes to all-time rankings, we kind of do the opposite. We overcompensate for recency bias by discrediting the recent guys. And I think when both these guys retire, they are putting up resumes that can compete with the best, and I think that they are going to be well within all-time discussions for some of the best players ever. And I'm not saying they're going to be top 5, but there's definitely going to be intriguing discussions to have about both Giannis and Jokic. Moving over to the Oklahoma City Thunder. Once again, this is one of the best young teams, the best young team in the entire league. And not just the best young team in the league, but one of the best teams in the NBA as a whole. And that's really rare. Usually inexperience can kind of get to a team, and you can, have some positives take away from what they're doing, but they might go on and have a 500 record, and they can be on an upward trajectory as a young team. But at the current moment, maybe the record doesn't necessarily reflect that. But for the Oklahoma City Thunder, they're both. They have a lot of positive takeaways and guys that are only going to continue to get better. But they're also really good right now. They are first in the Western Conference right now. SGA is one of the most consistent players in all of the NBA. He can get you 30 points a night, and his career high is only 45. He gets us 30, and that's enough for him. And there's really value in that because so often the point guard position can be really, really volatile, really inconsistent, sometimes inefficient. And you can't trust what you have there on a nightly basis. You look at a guy like D'Angelo Russell, he can have really good highs and really low lows. And you're not sure what you're going to get night in, night out. But for SGA, he is uber consistent, and that's great to see. And he's really efficient as well, utilizing all 3 areas of the court and maybe taking less threes than most modern point guards, but he can get to the rim really well to make up for that. And that's his play style at the end of the day, and it absolutely works. Chet Holmgren was having a really impactful season, especially on the defensive end. He's down with injury, but he is a vital piece for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Sky is the limit for him. Jalen Williams in his 3rd season looks like one of the better number 2 options currently in the NBA. This is a guy who, despite his height, can really be a great power forward option because of his wingspan. He's able to alter shots that a lot of guys at his height are not able to. So he's really good on the defensive end, but he's also a great connecting piece for his Thunder offense. Obviously, SGA is the main guy, but someone who feeds really well into that and is a great fit with the Thunder team is J-Dub. He's averaging almost 22 points, 6.1 boards, and 5 assists. So he's filling up a stat sheet, doing a little bit of everything for his offense, while also being a really good scorer for them. Jalen Williams is great. The sky's the limit for this guy. And, it's crazy that the Thunder got both him and Chet Holmgren in the same draft, in the same lottery, no less. So the sky's the limit for the Oklahoma City Thunder. Isaiah Hartenstein has scored 21 and then 16 points in his last 2 games, respectively. He's been really good. And with Isaiah Hartenstein, it's not even the production necessarily that you expect out of him, but all the things he can do that might not go into the box score. So when he's doing both, that's huge. So he's very impactful for the Thunder team, and that was a great pickup for them. And you can argue that his three-year, $87 million contract, that might be a little bit much for Isaiah Hartenstein, if you go off his production. but the way that he impacts the game, and especially fits within the Thunder team, because they really need someone besides Chet, and even Chet, kind of falls into the idea of the modern big man. They need someone who's, going to go in there and get in the paint and get boards and be that kind of player at the center position for them. And Isaiah Hartenstein slot in perfectly. The Thunder win contentions for him, Andre Drummond, that kind of player. And Hartenstein has been a great pickup for them. Despite a really big contract, he's crucial for the Thunder team. And so that's takeaways for both these teams. But now it goes to the NBA Cup as a whole. And I thoroughly believe that Adam Silver has huge plans for the NBA Cup. He has really marketed this in-season tournament as something big. With the new courts and having finals in Vegas, he's doing everything he can to make it really interesting and different from the normal regular season product. And he's really betting on it to be a success. And only time will tell if it is. But he is at least putting it in a good position to do so. And I respect Adam Silver for that, absolutely. He has a vision, he's seen the way it's been so successful in soccer leagues around the world. And he wants to do something like that with the NBA as well, especially at a time before the All-Star break where a lot of people aren't as tuned into the regular season. A lot of people, they check in after the All-Star break. So something to just keep the people entertained. And there's only one extra game that comes with it. You don't have to deal with injuries from 7 extra games. You just have one in the NBA Cup Finals. So there's really no distinct negative to it. And then, of course, having the finals in Vegas. I'm not the biggest fan on all these sports teams expanding into Vegas necessarily, because I feel like it is kind of more so a touristy place than a place you're going to have fans week in, week out from people living in the area. It's a place people go to on vacations quite a bit. It's a really iconic city, but it does feel more touristy to me. However, so obviously, that's the issue with if the NBA wants to actually expand there, and I think they would be fine even if they did, and they likely will. But I think it is a perfect setting for something like the NBA Cup Finals because of that tourist attraction that it is. You've already got tourists coming in. Now they're gonna line out their vacation alongside the NBA Cup Finals because that's something that you don't really get to see. It's an idea that's still novel and new. So I think Vegas is a great place to host it. And Adam Silver's betting big on the NBA Cup. Only time will tell how successful it ends up being. If it's something that is really taken seriously, that's also going to come with really good teams winning it, like the Los Angeles Lakers last year. They won the inaugural one, and they weren't a great team. They were a playoff team. But, were they a finals contender? No. And we'll see what the Milwaukee Bucks are. They're red hot right now. So, if better teams start winning, and we have some iconic performances like Giannis's 29-16 in this final game, I think it could be a really novel idea and work out really well for the NBA. And I know that Adam Silver certainly hopes so. So, in conclusion, I do think the NBA Cup has a lot of potential. It's still got a ways to go for sure. Some of those courts are eyesores, but there's definitely a market for it and a place where it could work out. The OKC Thunder are still a great team. Not just a great young team, but one of the best teams in the entire league already, in spite of their age. And the Milwaukee Bucks are on a heater right now. Dame looks more comfortable. Giannis is still one of the best players in the entire world. And the Bucks are really turning around right now. And that is really evidenced by them going out here and winning this NBA Cup. And that is all for today's episode of State of the Association. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Nash Roberts. We'll be back tomorrow with a fuller episode. I don't know how many NBA topics I'm going to delve into, but I do have some additional sports I want to get into. The Philadelphia Eagles and how they are much different, much improved from last year. Kirk Cousins just got benched for the Atlanta Falcons in favor of Michael Penix Jr. Go over how the Cousins experiment in Atlanta, how that has worked out or not worked out, And then what about Darwin Nunez over in the Premier League over in England? because I like to keep up with soccer as well. And that'll be my first time covering soccer, actually. So we'll see how that goes. As of now, thank you for tuning in. This has been State of the Association. I'm your host, Nash Roberts. Thank you once again.